Hey guys, this is Jan. Welcome to SketchaLona episode 50. In this week's episode, I'm gonna keep a low profile. There's been too many storms, there's been too many crazy things happening in the city, but we are going to visit a couple of boroughs and check out what's been happening in my sketchbook, and maybe just put together a little PDF while I'm at it. Nothing too crazy though. So let's grab a coffee and maybe just a little croissant and get started on drawing. So in spite of it being November, on days like these, like this Sunday, I think it's the 5th. I'm not even sure what what the date is. Who's keeping track of time? But it still feels like spring when the sun is out. We've had a lot of upheaval, as I mentioned earlier this week, with some thunder and lightning storms passing overhead, which is pretty rare over here because it's usually pretty dry. And then there's of course the political upheaval here in Barcelona, in Catalonia, with the political leadership of the secessionists, the separatists as they're known in the press, having fled the country and requiring the national government to issue international arrest warrants for them to hand themselves over to the police in Belgium. And it's so exciting. But in the meantime, it seems like peace and quiet has returned, besides the odd banging on pots and pans the occasional evening. Enough for me to feel comfy walking around the city center again, and sit down on the yacht terrace and draw pedestrians. It's funny how sometimes this is all I seem to be good for these days. Petting the cat. So, as a topic of conversation for my little vlog here, wow, I thought she was just gonna lunge at me. Nostalgia. Nostalgia is a powerful thing, and I got totally smitten by it this week because having two new flatmates and having a little bit more of the rent money available to myself, instead of being reasonable and just focusing on my trip to London, which is probably going to happen at the end of this month, maybe beginning of December. So there's a new Nintendo game system and a new Mario game, and I totally this week was checking out reviews and like salivating over the thought of having a new little handheld system to carry with me and play video games. But of course I already have a video game system with plenty of games that I haven't finished, or some not even touched at all, because it's the pile of shame. And but that doesn't stop nostalgia from kicking in, and I've managed to hold off. But then one of my flatmates got struck with it as well in a different way, because it's the 10th anniversary of the iPhone, and so there's the iPhone 10 that came out last Friday. And then I thought to myself, like, I mean, the new one looks very nice, but what if they'd taken the original iPhone, like the actual original shell, and just crammed it with the innards of the new one, and then all that extra space they'd have, they'd fill that up with battery, and then that would be the 10th anniversary iPhone, a phone that would actually last a week. That'd be cool. I'd get that. But back to the nostalgia. I think sometimes nostalgia can really, it really explains a lot to me about myself, and I think a lot of us who are creative, because when I think of like what I've been drawing in the past week, like all the figure drawing that I've been doing, because I'm trying to get away from the portrait drawing for a bit and like improve there and draw faster, like trying to be a little bit more like about speed. You know, and like all that is of course geared towards finishing comic book pages. And then I thought to myself, like, like I had one of those moments where I saw how my art has progressed in the past year and how much better I've gotten, because I willingly made very rough figure drawings to stop myself from like really meticulously making like, you know, the best I can figure drawings. And I just had a lot of fun with that. And then I thought to myself, like, you know, the skill level that I'm at is perfectly fine for making comics in the genre that I want to create in. However, there's this nostalgia for the kinds of comics that I used to read growing up, and for the kinds of artists that were really big back then, who I adore, and like being creative yourself and smitten with nostalgia seems to mean that you want to create something along the lines of the stuff that you loved the most, that had a big impact when you were younger, something that you remember fondly. Okay, I suppose tearing up the little sofa over there is better than me. So yes, the kinds of comics I've been reading this past week on Comixology are Wildcats, but the Wildcats I've never read, like the ones that were published under DC. Charest, his art, and I was rereading some Monkey Man and O'Brien by Arthur Adams. I finally finished reading the Jim Lee Batman Hush run. I knew he drew Batman at some point, but I never actually read the comic books, and now I have. It's pretty awesome. It's pretty packed with like not his entire rogue gallery, but like there's a lot of them that pass by in this, I don't know, is it like 10 issue run? It's pretty meaty. It's a pretty awesome story too. Bit melodramatic from time to time, but you can really feel like every issue there's like a big thing happening and a big guest appearance of someone, and very well drawn, of course, you know. So yeah, I kind of feel like part of the reason that I kind of had an implosion when it comes to making my own comic book is that I tend to hold myself to these standards as I perceive them from these comic book legends of the 80s and 90s, whose art I love so much. And you know, that has definitely limited the amount of stuff that I've been showing. And I kind of feel like it is a different way of looking at the effect of nostalgia in the life of someone who is very creative and wants to make their own stuff, like the impact nostalgia can have. And you see this all over the place on the internet, like whether it's with fan art, whether it's with pixel art. I think in video games, pixel art is a prime example of like nostalgia on an artist. And in my art, you know, like trying to go for this really particular, like very 80s, 90s broken line style and like trying to master it, you know. So yeah, nostalgia. What do you guys think? Has it impacted your art or the topics you want to draw? So I'm on Plaza Catalonia. I need to pick up some art supplies. I'm not sure if I'm going to do that now or later. And then I am going to... I don't even know what this part of town is called, actually. But it's a science museum, and they have a T-Rex. And I've only just found out that this science museum exists. So let's go check it out. So my time at the CosmoCaixa has come to an end. I'm just walking down the streets, finding some very pretty little buildings, all these little castles. So it's a very nice neighborhood. I think overall this particular museum, this might not have been my best day. Like, it was absolutely packed with screaming kids, and so I didn't quite get to enjoy it as much as I'd like to. And on top of that, even though there's plenty of cool things to see, the overall exhibition is a bit chaotic. Like I can see how someone could walk you through it and explain, like, you know, the science behind different exhibits and the fossils, but it was such a labyrinth that you could just kind of walk through on your own. It really felt, yeah, I don't know, like I couldn't really make sense of it. Oh Jesus, almost killed a bug. and so, the only way I did make sense of it was to put on the Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas soundtrack on, and got my own kicks out of it.
Cream-colored ponies and crisp apple strudels, doorbells and sleigh bells and schnitzel with noodles, wild geese that fly with the moon on their wings. These are a few of my favorite things.
And that about wraps it up for this week's video. I hope you dug it and enjoyed hanging out with me here in Barcelona and checking out that museum. If you did, hit like, give us a subscribe if you'd like to stay up to date, and I'll see you again next Sunday.